Let me put it to you like this. Do we legalise or penalise drug use? It's a kind of conundrum that is confused, it's embarrassed, and it's scuppered governments for years. How do we control drugs? How do you control the supply of drugs? How do you control dealers? How do you control users? We have a sort of an obvious couple of images in our minds in some respects. You've got Bob the Stoner wisely rolling up his extended Rizzlers with his special tobacco, and then calmly sitting in a corner getting all philosophical as he contemplates the world around him. And then you've got Gemma the cokehead, who can't go out for the night without a pocket full of Peruvian marching powder, sniffing chunky lines of the white stuff and then yakking at 500 miles an hour to anybody who cares to listen. They're kind of stereotypical images of people doing drugs. But of course, the true story, or the bigger picture, is much more complex and much more dangerous. Behind the headlines of those social users, whether it's Class B drugs or Class A drugs, is an international mafia trade in murder and misery. From the opium fields of Afghanistan to the shady backstreets of Bogota to the grisly reality of gang culture in the United Kingdom. The story of the drug trade is absolutely massive, and it's growing. At one end, you see the death of those producers and dealers vying for their kingpin positions in a lethal market, right the way to the gang-related drug wars on the streets of Manchester, Glasgow and London. And then the end result, of course, those addicted to the stuff, those addicted to narcotics, their lives wrecked, their bodies savaged, family and friends long gone, the bank balance is zero, a place to live a distant dream, and then, of course, the circle completes itself as those hungry for their next fix take to crime to satisfy their needs. Welcome to the 21st century. Do we legalise or penalise drug use? 0344 499 1000. Of course, over there in the Philippines, we've talked about President Duterte before. This is the guy, a couple of years back, who had a grand idea. Kill everyone involved in drugs. He even instructed the police, customs officers, even members of the public. If you see a cokehead, blow his brains out. That came from the government. If you spot a neighbour having a crafty spliff, don't tell him to stub it out and call the Frank hotline. No, pick up a handgun and shoot him in the head. Over a 6-month period, 7,000 people were killed in this way. The president gave the green light to kill people involved in drugs. If you were caught in the same postcode as a pouch of Moroccan black, you were going to the penitentiary in the sky. Kill them, all of them. That's how they dealt with it. It's a little extreme, I think we'd all agree. But what do we do here? Do we legalise or do we penalise? Do you go the Duterte route, or do we look at a way and go, do you know what, this stuff, this is ridiculous. Nobody's been able to solve this. Apart from Boris Johnson, who thinks he has. The government says it is to provide rehabilitation for 300,000 drug users who carry out half of all the shop thefts, robberies and burglaries. Ministers have announced that a 10-year drug strategy will allocate £780 million funding for drug treatment in England alone. It also includes £300 million for combating more than 2,000 county lines gangs. The government says that in some cases, casual drug users may lose their driving licence or passports. I mean, that is ridiculous, right? Is that really what it's come to? You can imagine what Duterte over there in the Philippines is thinking of that. Boris Johnson will take away your passport. Ooh, that'll stop me doing my favourite drug of choice of a Friday evening. Labour said the reforms were long overdue and cuts to the police budgets had allowed gangs to grow. Announcing its new strategy on Monday, the government said all local authorities will receive new money for treatment and recovery, with the 50 councils where there is most need receiving the first funds. The strategy, say ministers, will treat addiction as a chronic health condition in order to reduce the stigma, save lives and break the circle of crime fueled by addiction. This subject is absolutely massive. You know, there's a big part of me, I never used to think that legalising or decriminalising drugs was any kind of an answer to this. It always seemed a bit strange that something that you can buy on street corners, a crafty exchange between one person and another, you would start putting in shops And what I could never see was how you would have fewer people using than you currently have. You'd surely have more people using, wouldn't you? Because lots of people would go, oh, I've heard about this drug. Apparently it's really good. Kind of works. And I'm not an addictive person, so I might just use it over a weekend. And the only reason I don't at the moment is because the idea of getting caught and having a record for drug possession or use is just abhorrent to me. But if they're flogging it down at Tesco, then, well, I might pick that up while I'm off to get my Frey Bentos. 0344 499 1000. But now I'm thinking to myself, I can't really see a way that this is about to be solved anytime soon, anywhere. I'm told that Portugal is a good measure of a country that decided to treat it as a kind of a health issue. So crackheads, heroin addicts, all the rest of it. You know, these people have got to the extremities of addiction. And really, they've got no way out. Their only way out is the next fix. I don't think there's any point in sticking those people in jail, really, is there? I mean, if you've seen the kind of toothless smackheads that will approach you in the street, and I don't say that to be clever, genuinely toothless smackheads whose mind has mostly gone, whose ability to speak hardly exists, the stench of their presence. And again, this is about just observing the disposition of some of these people. I know there are functioning heroin addicts, but you take my point on this. You think, what's the point in sticking you in strange ways? Really? What's that going to do? Oh, 4 weeks in Pentonville. I don't think so. I don't think Wormwood Scrubs is likely to make any difference to your life other than you aching for the next fix. And then when you get out of jail, you're probably going to go and rob somebody to get your next 20 quid so you can go to your dealer and get the next fix. And that will just continue forever. So penalising that person, I'm not so sure. I can't imagine you would suddenly, because it's all, you know, all that stuff is already illegal and we have a massive problem with it. So it's not doing anything. It isn't solving the problem. 0344 499 1000. So are we now at a stage, regrettably, because they always say, don't they, if alcohol was invented tomorrow, it would never be legal. So kind of taking that line, as it were, if you'll pardon the pun, why would you then wish to legalise something else that is also quite destructive? The answer is meant to be that while you're addressing the trade in it, you're taking the criminality out of it. I don't even know whether you would stop that, because you can buy moody cigarettes and moody booze now. There's a kind of a market in that. Whether it's matey that went across the channel or whether it's somebody who knows somebody who makes those cigarettes themselves elsewhere. So I think you'd still have a kind of black market economy in narcotics. I don't think that would fully go away. You'd have people undercutting, selling it cheaper. Don't buy it in the supermarket, buy it from me. On balance, it would seem to me that we must now seriously look at the idea of legalising drug use. Because the battle to try and address this, the never-ending battle that the police have to deal with. How you ask the average cop on a shift, how many times when you're investigating all sorts of crimes is there a kind of link to drugs or alcohol? And it's like nearly all the time after a certain hour of the day that these things are intrinsically linked. 0344 499 1000. I would love to speak to you specifically if this is your story. So you know about this because you have been that person, whether it's the smack, whether it's the blow, whether it's the white stuff, whatever it happened to be, whatever your drug of choice. If you've been there, but maybe it might be in your own family. It could be the son. It's horrifying to me, the thought of your kid suddenly discovering they've been jacking up on a regular basis, and that's what they do. They are that person. We've spoken to people before, and it's tragic. And sometimes there's light at the end of the tunnel, and the person comes through, but that can be a long old journey. I mean, this is, highly addictive and largely symbolic of other issues, I'm sure. It ain't easy to snap somebody out of that one, that's for sure.